Welcome back, everybody. This is Steve Kamanapali. The board, if it decides that it wants to govern with a board policy manual or a BPM, the next question is, so what do I do next? Well, here are some tips that have helped a lot of people. Number one is set a target for the first draft. You'll have to go through several drafts and review before you get to a final draft. Or maybe you'll have to break it up into several pieces so you can go to the board for approval. You can have a good draft in a few weeks if it's a priority, and I suggest presenting the best you can do at your next board meeting to maintain momentum. Number two is to select one main drafter. It probably would be a CEO or a senior executive because they're going to be working with the board the most. And so it's somebody who's been to a lot of board meetings. It could even be they're working with a board member. And that person should have the skills of a clear, concise thinking and writing. Don't give the drafting task to a committee. Number three is you want to review the board minutes. It's not essential, but reviewing the last several years of board minutes or any compilations of board policies may remind you what the drafters need to include into those key policies that will be rewritten in the form of a BPM. Number four is to identify a small review team. Now, you want to let a few key players read and comment on early drafts. Let the key players who staff committees think as board members and draft parameters. For example, you'd want to have the CFO involved to draft the finance parameters. Now, if all that input goes to the main drafter. Number five is determine topics in each part. Now, start with my template and add and delete paragraph headings to fit your situation. For example, in part two, determine whether you want vision, mission, values, functions, primary beneficiaries, goals. What do you want in that section? And then fill it in according to the existing policies or draft new language. Now, part two is often the most difficult part to get right. Assume you will add or delete paragraph topics throughout. Number six is identify key functional areas in part five. Create a section for all major functions. And for a university, for example, that might include parameter sections for finance, academy affairs, student advancement, athletics, enrollment management, investments, facilities, audits, and much, much more. Number seven, you want to insert your preferred committees. In part three, list and define each standing committee, and then go to part one and assign a committee to each of the section or parameters in part five. One committee could oversee 2 to 3 parameters. Number 8 is be consistent with bylaws. Some start with a bylaw review and then go to the BPM, but you can start writing the BPM and then recommend changes to the bylaws. Now, in the end, your BPM must be consistent with your bylaws. Finally, forget perfection. The BPM is a living document. It will be changed every time the board and committees review it according to the procedures in part one. Initially, decide who's going to write it, who's going to serve on the review team, and how you're going to assign it in your schedule. I hope you have a great meeting, and I'll see you next time.